Okay, I'm on 12th Street, maybe 13th Street. This is 12th Street, between 5th and 6th, okay, in the area of Brooklyn called Park Slope. For those of you who come from Africa, Europe, West Coast, Hollywood, I'm just gonna give you a little glimpse of what Brooklyn looks like. A lot of townhouses built in the late 1800s during the Gilded Age and during the early 1900s, and these were the most beautiful, honestly. A lot of them are prefabricated. This is when Carnegie started to develop steel and people were allowed to build big houses. Those are fire escapes. They are pretty much in the front of every building, big building. I find the townhouses very beautiful. Some people don't. In Manhattan, you have the cast iron district, and most of the buildings, this is like in Soho, in Manhattan, and most of the buildings over there are prefabricated, made of steel, and made building much easier. But as I'm seeing over here, you have a lot of buildings here that are also prefabricated. These are townhouses. These are the oldest style, probably from late 1800s. But you can tell that the economy is good because people are taking care of their places. Politicians like to talk about economy, but you don't really know what's going on until you get boots on the ground, as they say. So I just thought, in the style of Tom D from New York City, I would take a little walk with you around the block. He does much longer walks than that. He's a tour guide, just like I used to be in New Orleans, but he's a tour guide, a New York City tour guide. And what he does is just walk around showing people the different places. He has a cameraman, and he makes commentary. It appears that some of these buildings are made of wood. Looks like Mom Donnie's going to be taking down these sheds. They're very ugly. It looks made of wood. And you have a house back there that's recessed. That's interesting. Little skyline right there. Awning. Okay, we're coming up on 6th Avenue in our little round the block tour. Little graffiti right there. People seem to like the graffiti not because it's artistic, but because it's daring. And I've heard some stories about guys who are rappelling off roofs to get this, to be able to paint on the sides of buildings, which is very daring. People don't like to admit they like it, but they do like it. Sometimes they make some places very ugly, though. Okay, 6th Avenue. My mother hates graffiti. 6th Avenue. We are in the town of Park Slope. What are they serving for lunch today? Roasted acorn and butternut squash salad with kale, pumpkin seeds, and feta cheese, $16.50. All right. Friday, 4:30 to 10:30. Brooklyn used to be its own city. It has its own personality for sure. And as Tom D will tell you, in 1898, The whole city came together, all 5 boroughs, and made one city, consolidated. These are townhouses, stoops. Sometimes they call them brownstones. This is a particularly beautiful area of Brooklyn. The architecture has been maintained, and it appears to be taken care of too, which is nice to see. And yes, people here in New York City know what trees are, especially where I live over in Staten Island. All right, we're coming up on 13th, the so-called unlucky number, and we're gonna go head down to 5th, and that will complete our tour. See, that's kind of ugly. If I was a graffiti artist, I would never paint on private property. But here's a garden. Everybody's front yard has a little nature. And here we have the brown garbage cans, and they are now collecting compost and scraps of food, if you can believe it. Bones and meat and everything else. The city is really trying to recycle. But then I hear rumors from sanitation guys that a lot of this stuff never gets recycled properly. Here's another wooden house. Actually, 1, 2, 3 wooden houses, 4 wooden houses. Across the street, you got, I think these are very quaint and beautiful. Charming, as some people would say. My dear old dad. Charming. You know, this is a historical way of life. It might even be protected by government regulation. You know, the preservation societies of the world. There you go. Nice tall building with a fire escape. Some people can go down those fire escapes and jump right down. Kind of looks like Chelsea over there. Chelsea, Manhattan. Oh, here's another beautiful wooden building. 2 stories. Look at that front. Look at that entranceway. Now, we're definitely talking about 1800s. We can look it up. 295 5th Street. 5th Street? No, 13th Street. Sorry. Well, something's getting restored, hopefully. Not knocked down. Unfortunately, in Staten Island, they knocked down a lot of beautiful buildings and put up... In place of 1 house, they'll put 5, 6 houses, which creates a lot of traffic, and the infrastructure is not prepared to handle that. The developers don't really look ahead to such things. Now, you see, the block was originally that. And then some developer built that, which is increasing the number of people on the street, the number of cars. And then, of course, they build that. Oish, my God. And it's in the style of brutalism. So let me just do a little quick architectural lesson there. Brutalism has no decoration on the outside of the building. They're completely bare. There you go. Perfect example of brutalism. But come over here, 19th century, late 19th century Gilded Age townhouse. Look at the decoration. Okay? Look at the decoration. Makes you feel more interesting to be alive. Whereas brutalism is blank, boring, bare. Does not enliven my soul. And that's one of the functions of architecture, is to make people feel good about their environment. Patties of Park Slope. Nothing like a little Irish bar, huh? A little Celtic cross over there, which is older than the Christian cross. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. See that? In Park Slope. What's his name? The mayor. I can't even remember his name. The mayor of New York is now Mamdani, but before Mamdani it was Mayor Adams, and before that it was another guy, and he's known as the dope. He lived in Park Slope, maybe he still does, and he's known as the dope from Park Slope. And we're back on Fifth Avenue. AKA, this is a deli. Some people call it a tienda because they speak Spanish. It's a corner store, basically. In New Orleans, they call it a corner store. I was shopping over here at the Urban Market, very cheap. Oh, Bill de Blasio, how could I forget? Mayor Bill de Blasio is from Park Slope. And Curtis Sliwa, who has run for mayor a couple of times, he's good and bad. Terrible on the economy, but good in other ways. He calls de Blasio the dope from Park Slope. All right. Goodbye, people. Hope you enjoyed our walk around the block. This is Lewis.